Ciao e benvenuto. This is Chef Paul again here in the kitchens at the Advanced Technology Center at Gulf Coast State College. Welcome. Today we're going to do something different. Today we're going to make pizza. And you know what? You probably have almost everything you need to make pizza already in your kitchen if you'll go look. So what I have in front of me here, well, it's a French word today, and it's mise en place. Mise en place means everything in its place. It's one of the first things I teach culinary students, and it really is critical. There's a mise en place for everything. And the mise en place for today for making our dough, because pizza is a multi-step process. We have to make the dough first, and the dough has to have time to really come together, come alive, and well, the word we use is ferment. During that fermentation process, the dough takes on flavors. Okay, so let's talk about the ingredients. Of course, the first ingredient is flour. We're going to use all-purpose flour today. You know what? In Italy, they would use double O or triple O flour, which are fine grinds of flour, but they're very similar to a all-purpose flour. You don't want to use too soft of a flour like a cake or a pastry flour, because they just don't have enough gluten in them to create the kind of structure that we need in our dough. Next ingredient we need is, well, just tap water. Warm tap water. That's it. Extra virgin olive oil. Please don't scrimp on your olive oils. Buy good olive oil. It really is worth the difference. It should be green if possible. You're looking for good olive oil. Next, salt and sugar, basic. And then finally, our yeast. Now I'm using an instant yeast. Now instant yeast, there's different kinds of yeast. You've got instant yeast, you've got dry active yeast, and you've got fresh yeast. Dry active yeast, the kind you find in those little yellow packets at the grocery store, those have to be actually hydrated before they can be used. Instant yeast, the kind that comes in what looks like a pound bag of coffee, instant yeast does not have to be rehydrated. You can actually just throw it into your product. And of course, fresh yeast must be refrigerated. But this is just instant yeast. All right? And then finally, the tools we're going to need. Most of our tools are right here. We're going to use our hands today. I'm going to use a baker's favorite tool. And this is nothing more than a little plastic scraper. Everybody should have one of these. They're one of the most useful tools that you can have. We're going to use a digital scale. My favorite rolling pin, this one's bamboo. It doesn't have handles. It's called a French style pin. I've got a little bowl with some extra flour in it. The same kind of flour, please. This is called a peel, and a peel is used for sliding bread and pizzas in and out of the oven. I've got a bowl to put my dough in. I'll put some plastic wrap over it also. And then, of course, we've got our pizza oven. I've got it turned up to 550 degrees. Yeah, I said 550 degrees, because we're going to cook this pizza hot and fast. All right? So if you're ready, let's get started. Hi, it's Chef Paul back, and we're going to make some pizza. Let's talk about the ingredients, the amounts you need. But you know, first I want to tell you a little bit about pizza. I love traveling, and as much as I love going all around Europe, and I met wonderful people wherever I went, I felt the most comfortable in Italy. It just seemed to be a laid-back kind of place. And what was so nice was being able to go into a little mom-and-pop shop and for a couple of euros sit down and have amazing pizzas. Now, pizzas in Italy are not what we would think of pizza here. You know, as you travel around our country, you'll find different pizzas wherever you go. From the giant pies in New York City, big pieces of pizza that you fold over and eat, to maybe a deep dish at Gino's in Chicago. Eat with a knife and fork because it's, you know, a couple of inches thick. Pizzas all over the place. Deep dish, soft. But in Italy, you're going to see pretty much the same kind of pizza, and that's what we're going to make today. It's going to be small, typically meant to be eaten with a knife and a fork, very thin and cooked very, very fast. And usually, you get the whole pizza for yourself. That's right. You know, if you really try hard enough, any pizza can be a personal pizza. So today we're going to make pizza, and I'm going to talk to you about the ingredients. The first thing we've got to know is we've got to measure out of all of our ingredients. And it's really important to understand that while cooking is an art, baking is a science. And we want to make sure that we scale things properly. you know what, to do that, go ahead and invest in a digital scale for use in your home. It's really, really important because with a digital scale, we can get exact measurements. So what we're going to do, we're going to start out with 500 grams of all-purpose flour. Now, 500 grams, it's about a little bit over a pound of all-purpose flour. You can use plain all-purpose flour. You don't need to sift it at all. You're going to measure it and you're going to dump it right onto your table. And then you're going to make a little well in the middle of it, like a volcano, Vesuvio, the mountain outside of Naples. Then we're going to take our other ingredients. We're going to take our teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and dump it in. We're going to take our yeast, and for this case, we're going to go ahead and put our yeast in with our water, and we're going to let that just sit just for a moment. You can stir it up with your finger if you want to. It's not going to hurt. This, again, as I said, is instant yeast. Now, if we were using the dry little yellow packets, we would have to hydrate that yeast. But this yeast, this is instant. We're just going to mix it in just to make things a little easier. And then we've got our 1.5 ounces of olive oil. So what are we going to do? We're going to make our well, and we're going to start adding our water. Now, you're going to notice that, well, hopefully we won't break the well. You know, when you're making pasta in Italy, there's an old tale that says if you break the well, that means you won't get married. Fortunately, I'm already married, so I don't have to worry about breaking the well. Now you can see the water's going to run all over the place. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. That's what this scraper's for. The scraper's going to move this water back into it. Now, you know, at your own house, if you don't have a nice big stainless table like this, just mix everything in the bowl. It's absolutely fine to do it that way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to make a mess because you know what? It's fun to make a mess in the kitchen. Teach your kids it's okay to make a mess in the kitchen. Then teach your kids how to clean up the kitchen. All right. So we'll keep mixing. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix this dough together. And again, yes, it would be much easier in a bowl, but we've already gone through that. We're going to mix this together and get all this water mixed in. And if you can see it on the table, it's starting to make kind of a shaggy dough. And I realize it doesn't look like much right now. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine in just a second because I'm going to use my hands and we're going to bring all this together and we're going to make really a lot of fun now. So, if you notice, I'm trying to keep one fairly clean hand. Just that way I can pick tools up, set tools down, or if something happens, my phone rings, I can still pick up the tool. But if you notice, I've got all that water in, and we've got a really shaggy dough here. Okay, a little bit of water over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start massaging this, and yes, this is kneading the dough. And what I'm doing, if your hands get too dirty, just, you know what, put some flour on them and rub them together. Kneading this dough, and what this is doing is this is hydrating the dough. It's getting all the dough fully wet. Now, while I've got this dough nice together, I'm going to go ahead and add my olive oil. Now, if you notice my ingredients so far, I've got flour, I've got salt, sugar, olive oil, and yeast. So this is a vegetarian product. I mean, unless you count those millions of yeast cells that gave their lives, this really is vegetarian. So I know it looks like a mess. And if you've got a KitchenAid mixer at home, by all means, throw it all in there. But you know what? It's not near as fun, I don't think, as mixing dough by hand. And I love the smell of olive oil. So now what I'm doing is I'm beginning the kneading process. And I want you to see a few things. First of all, when I knead dough, I'm not really using my hands as much as I am using my back and shoulders and pushing against the table. So I'll push against the table, fold the dough over, push, and then I turn it. Push against the table, roll the dough back, push, and turn. And you know what? I'm going to keep doing this for kind of a while. It might take as much as 10 minutes depending on the kind of flour you're using. What we're trying to do right now is create something called gluten. Now, gluten is the protein that creates a lattice structure in bread that gives structure to bread. So, as you can see, things are really starting to clean up on this table. Now, if you'll notice, I've got a little bit of extra flour over here. If the dough feels sticky, or if I really feel like it is just a little too wet, I can use a little pinch of this flour to help dry it out. And if you'll notice, I'm moving the dough around and I'm trying to get every bit of this flour off the table because bakers are cheap. And if you'll notice, it's coming together in a dough. Now, I'm going to keep doing this until I reach what's called a gluten window. Now, a gluten window is when you can pull a small piece of dough so thin that you actually can almost see through it. It's an important thing for bakers to see. It is something I teach my students that, you know, mixing times change for everything that you make. In your bakery, just like in your house, something is different every single day. Humidity, temperature, the temperature of the flour, the temperature of the water, everything. Something is different on a daily basis. The more you work it, are my hands hotter than the next person's hands? So instead of relying strictly on a recipe to tell me the time, I want to rely on looking for a finished final product in the dough. That'll tell me exactly what I need to know. Now, with some of our electric mixers here, I tell the students to listen for a slap. They'll hear a slap on the side of the bowl when the dough begins to become elastic. That elasticity is another sign of gluten development. So if you'll notice, the dough is starting to lighten up a little bit and it's starting to smooth over. I'm getting close. But I'm going to show you what a gluten test looks like. I'm going to take a little piece of this dough, roll it between my hands, flatten it with my thumbs, and start to stretch on it. And I want you to notice how quickly that tears apart. It's really important to note that it tore apart that quickly because I have not got gluten development. If you don't get gluten development, your pizza's not going to be very good. Your bread's not going to be very good. You need to continue to process this, whether by machine or by hand, until you get good gluten development. So we're going to keep going here for just a moment or two and get our gluten done. Now, in Italy, the classic pizza that you're going to see in most places to begin with is the Neapolitan pizza. Why is it classic? Well, because it's the colors of the Italian flag. The white of the dough and of the mozzarella, the green of the basil, and the red of the sauce. And that's the real classic pizza. Now, you can get pizza almost any way you can think of. I love pizza with prosciutto and artichokes on it. But people like pizza all kinds of ways. And it really is up to you. The nice thing about making dough like this is that, well, make a big batch, throw it in the refrigerator, or break up into small balls, throw it into the freezer, and then when you want a pizza, pull out a piece of dough. So as I continue to work with this dough, hopefully we're going to be ready in just a minute or two here, we're going to see our gluten development. And I can feel it changing. You might even be able to see it changing. I'm going to get to the point when the dough gets soft enough to push it with one heel of my hand, roll it back, push it with the heel, turn it, roll it back, push it, turn it. And what I'm doing is, this is kneading the dough. There are pretty much all my students know there are 10 steps in making bread. And we're only into the second step. Basically, scale, and then this is the mixing of the dough. So let's give it a gluten test here in just a few more seconds and see what we've got. All right. I can already tell it's stretchier. Roll a piece of dough between my fingers, and I'll flatten it out. And I can already see that the dough is stretching a little bit more before it rips. And you can probably even see that. I'm still getting a little bit of ripping. It's so close. But, and it would probably work, but it wouldn't be as well formed, and the crumb wouldn't be as well formed. So let's knead it for just a little bit more. It's so close. But, you know, patience is a virtue. And we're going to keep kneading here. You will also find, along with red pizzas, you'll find white pizzas. You'll find dessert pizzas. You'll find breakfast pizzas. Really, you can do anything with it. As you think about pizza, really all you really need to think about it is a delivery vehicle for something else. Like an artist uses a clean canvas and puts his colors on it. Think of that as a pizza. The pizza, the crust is just a canvas for the artist to put all the different things on. All right, so I think we're just about there. A few more kneads. This would have happened in just a couple of minutes in a mixer, but you know, it's just not near as fun, and get a little bit of exercise. And you'll notice I'm not wearing a watch or any other jewelry. It's important in the kitchen to be able to clean your arms, you know, up to your forearms, and really sanitize, especially when we're working with our hands like this. So that's why you shouldn't be seeing chefs and cooks wearing all kinds of jewelry and watches and things like that. So let's take a look. Oh, it feels good. Now, if you could feel this, our yeast is coming alive, and in our fermentation process, which is the next step, we're going to let this rest. And as it rests, the yeast is going to actually begin consuming all those starches. And it basically creates alcohol and carbon monoxide, or carbon dioxide, not monoxide, dioxide. So what's going to happen is, as this sits and rests, it's going to begin to grow because the gas is going to expand it. Now, because of gluten, which is, if you look at a crust of a piece of bread, all the lattice work, because of gluten, the gases are going to get trapped and the whole thing is going to grow. That's the fermentation stage. For fermentation, you're going to want to take your bowl that you've oiled up just a little bit, put your dough in your bowl, cover it, and let it rest for about 2 hours. After an hour or so, you can put it in the fridge, and that'll slow down this process. But put it in the fridge, let it rest. You'll see it rise up, and then you'll be ready to make some pizza. All right? So come right back. Welcome back. Our dough's been resting, fermenting. This is also called the first bench rest. It's been fermenting for a couple of hours now. And I'm going to take it out of its bowl. And what you're going to notice is, I'm going to cut this because I really want you to see inside. You can see the formation of the gluten. That structure, each one of those little cells holds a tiny bit of gas. So when you're making regular bread and you would go from here to maybe the proof box, in the proof box you would have a second rising. All that gas would get trapped inside of each one of these little cells, and that's what causes your bread to rise. What we're going to do is number 4. So we've got scale, mix, ferment, and this is called the punch or degassing. I'm going to cut this into, let's say 3 pieces. We'll do 4. And you don't have to worry about it sticking to the table because it's got a nice coating of oil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to round this on the table just a little bit. This is really the hardest single skill there is for me to teach a student, is rounding a piece of dough so that they can feel it move under their hands. But I don't have to worry about it too much here because all I'm wanting is to get it round and then to start pressing it out. Now, growing up and on the boardwalk in Ocean City, Maryland, watching the guys throw pizzas in the air, I always thought it was cool, but I never could do it, and I still can't. When I throw a pizza, it usually ends up on the floor. You don't really have to throw pizzas, especially these. When you're throwing flour, get in the habit of holding the flour in your hands and just dusting. You really want just a light coating of dust. Now, as you start rolling your pizza dough out, you're going to invariably have a little bit of a thicker rim. It's fine. For me, I'm going to use this, my trusty pen. And I want you to notice something when I roll. I don't roll off the ends. I'll roll out the other direction, and then I'll start in the middle. What this is doing is helping me create some structure. And you know what? I don't care if it's not round. As a matter of fact, I really don't want it to be perfectly round. Perfect pizzas point to machines, and I'm not really concerned about that. Keep it moving. You don't want it sticking to your table. A little bit of flour. Turn the dough over because you're going to have one side that's invariably stickier than the other. A little more dust of flour, and then continue rolling. Now, this is going to be a pizza for one, maybe two people. You've only got a couple of ounces of dough. It's not very much. And rolled as thin as this is, this will make a nice pizza for one person. And you know what? I usually try to find the shape of a state when I'm making pizza. Not really sure. But when we come back, we're going to doctor this up and put it in the oven. We have the colors of the Italian flag, because you know what? We're going to make classic pizza margherita. So, a little bit of pizza sauce. You know what? You can make your own. Simply crushed tomatoes, typically Romas, and whatever spices, herbs, whatever you want to put in it. It's your world. Just make something up. I've got a block of mozzarella. Get some nice fresh mozzarella. The shaved stuff in the bag is a little on the dry side. Just doesn't do as nicely. And then some nice basil, sweet basil, okay? Are you ready? Let's make a pizza. So I'm going to slide this out of our way. I'm going to dust again. Don't worry about it. Keep dusting. Our dough is nice and rested, and you can see that it's moving around good. Now, for us, we're going to use this big oven here. Now, at home, you might go ahead and do this on a sheet pan in your oven and get it hot. If you have the option, use your grill. You can get a stone for your grill and crank your grill up really hot. It's a great way to do it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my peel and I'm going to dust the peel a little bit. And you can go ahead and dress your pizza right on the peel. That way, it'll slide right off, okay? So, here we go. I know it doesn't look perfect. It's all right. It's just pizza, all right? And you don't need very much sauce at all. As a matter of fact, you won't see a lot of sauce on many Italian pizzas. A little bit of sauce, and they'll just take it and run it around using the bottom of the spoon. The edges will be typically dry. Don't worry about the little bit of flour. That's it. That's not even 2 tablespoons of sauce. Okay? Don't need more than that. Now we're going to take and we're going to slice up some of this mozzarella. And we're going to get some nice chunks of it. Now, some people will say to put your pizza in the oven for a few minutes and then put on the mozzarella, but I've got our oven behind us at over 500 degrees. We're going to bake it right on the hearth. So this is only going to take minutes for this to cook. Now I'm going to take these and I'm going to just kind of chop them up. You don't have to be perfect with this. We can even break them up, splotch them around. All right. And for this, I like taking the smaller leaves and you can just kind of sprinkle them around. Bigger leaves you can rip up. It doesn't matter, okay? It really doesn't. You're not making this for sale at your house. You're making this because you want something really good, really easy, and it's going to be really pretty. So if you're ready, we got all that together. I think we need one more leaf. Let's put a nice leaf right in the middle, and I'm going to slide it in the oven. And this is the delicate part. I usually try to get my pizza moving by jiggling it just a little bit. Then I'm going to take it, slide it in the oven, just like that. Now, that's going to cook in an awful hurry. Be right back. All right, you ready? Let's take a pizza out of the oven. And there we go. I wish you could smell it. It really is wonderful. And you know, this is about what it should look like. Nice and crusty. You're going to look up underneath it. You're going to look for some browning and black spots. You know what? A little bit of black spots is no problem. It's fine on a pizza. This is what you want to look for. And what's nice is it's very thin. It takes minutes to cook if your oven is hot enough. And what's really nice is there's not a lot of food here. If you really think about this, we've got 3 to maybe 4 ounces tops of dough, maybe 2 tablespoons of sauce. We might have 1.5 ounces of cheese and a couple of pieces of basil. There really is not a lot of calories here either. So while I'm not specifically saying that pizza is diet food, don't get me wrong, we could moderate the portion size so it's not so huge. All right, so now we're going to cut it. Okay, and for this I'm going to use, well, we could use a knife, we could use a pastry wheel. When I order a pizza, I tell them to cut it into 8 slices because I just can't eat 16. My students groan at the jokes. But we're going to just take and cut that. And it should be thin and nice and colored on the bottom. And it's really hot, so I will take a bite, but not right this second. I'm going to let it cool off for just a moment. Make some pizza. It's so easy, and it's something your family's going to love. But you know what? I think we'll make one a little different when we come back. Ciao. Welcome back. You know what? The last time we made a vegetarian pizza, well, again, unless you count all the yeast cells, today we're going to make another form of truly Italian pizza. We're going to start out almost the same, but we're going to add about the most Italian piece of cured meat you can. And today we're going to add prosciutto to it. So, again, start with your sauce. You've rolled out your piece of dough, put it on the peel. Couple of tablespoons of sauce is all you need. And you know what? Make your own sauce. Around here, we get great tomatoes. You can go up to Quincy, in that area near the end of the summer, and literally the fields are overgrown with tomatoes, and you can buy them right off the side of the road. There are even times when you can pick your own or grow your own tomatoes. They're some of the easiest things you can grow in your own garden are tomatoes, and nothing tastes better than your own homegrown tomato. Store-bought tomatoes, especially the ones that basically are picked green, shoved inside them in a giant container and then pumped full of ethylene gas. That ethylene gas is what turns them orange, but they have no flavor. So, you know what? Grow your own tomatoes. We're going to do that. Now we're going to add a little bit of cheese to it, again, like we did last time. And if you saw the last time I did this, that cheese, the way it bubbled up so nicely, you want to use a nice mozzarella. Now, this is a whole milk mozzarella cheese. You can use skim milk mozzarella. They even make, for those people that have issues with dairy, with cow dairy, you can get a goat cheese mozzarella, buffalo mozzarella. There's all different kinds of mozzarella out there that you can get. So, you know what? Don't let a issue like that stop you from enjoying a pizza. There are gluten-free pizza mixes that you can buy. You know what? Try something so that at least you can enjoy the food. All right? Because it's really important to enjoy food. So, I'm just going to break this up. And yeah, I put a lot of cheese on this one, but I like cheese. So, now I'm going to take my prosciutto. And you know, usually prosciutto comes sliced very, very thin. It is a cured meat. And the hams are salted when they come into the plants. And up in the hills around Parma in northern Italy, I've been to warehouses and pictures of 5,000 legs of prosciutto hanging. It really is an amazing sight to see. But they bring the legs in, and the first thing they do is cover them with salt. The salt helps to draw out moisture and make sure that bacteria doesn't thrive. And then they're allowed to dry cure in that hilly air. And the different microclimates that happen over a period of time turn it into this wonderful product that we call prosciutto. Now, different places have different kinds of ham that are cured very similarly. A Virginia ham, done very much the same way. My favorite happens to come from Spain, and the Spanish jamón, or the jamón ibérico, is really amazing too. So I'm just going to throw some prosciutto all over this. I know it's a bit of a luxury item, but you know what? Treat yourself every now and then. Now let's take some pieces of basil. We're going to try to get you some good pictures inside the oven of this thing going. Hopefully we can. I've got my oven nice and hot. And the nice thing about using a stone is a stone retains the heat. You know what? You can buy all kinds of things to make pizzas. I've seen small little oven fixtures that have a stone inside of them to put on your grill to get very, very hot. You can buy a steel plate to put on your grill or put in your oven. You just want to make sure that you're getting it nice and hot. Now that's for one of these thin pizzas. You don't want to cook a thick pizza on a hot stone or a hot steel, because basically what's going to happen is the outside crust is going to burn. It's going to be raw inside. That's why deep dish pizzas take so long, because basically they're like baking a cake. You ready? Let's put it in the oven. Again, a little bit of a tilt, a little bit of a shake to get it going. Drop it in the oven, and we'll be right back. Let's take a look at our pizza. It should be done by now. It's only been a couple of minutes, but they cook fast when you cook them hot like this. Let's pull it out of the oven. Oh my goodness. Still bubbling. Beautiful. You know what? Make a pizza. Family's going to love it. You're going to love it. It's quick, it's easy, you can make everything up ahead of time, keep everything in the fridge, get the oven hot, get the grill hot, make a pizza. You'll thank me for it. All right, so come back again and join us. Who knows what we'll make next time? Maybe some bread, who knows? We'll see you next time.